2018 marks the final season that Kimi Raikkonen would drive for a front-running team in Formula 1. After joining the Ferrari Driver Academy in 2016, Charles Leclerc impressed the team by winning the GP3 feeder series in 2016, followed by the Formula 2 series in 2017. It was therefore no surprise that after a solid debut Formula 1 season with the Sauber team in 2018, with praise for his strong showings coming from four-time world champions Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton, that Leclerc would be the first Academy graduate to the Scuderia, taking the place of the flying Finn Kimi Raikkonen. Although Raikkonen's second stint with the Scuderia did not meet expectations, his final bow in 2018 contained his final Formula 1 win and his 10th with the Scuderia at the Circuit of the Americas, a race as a fond Kimi fan that was one of my favourites of modern times. The 2018 season offered a second title battle between two four-time world champions, Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, with the season finally poised until a significant twist at the German Grand Prix, which saw Lewis win the race from P14 on the grid after a sloppy accident from Sebastian Vettel with rain falling at the Hockenheimring. Sebastian's form tailed off from this point, offering Lewis the chance to win his 5th World Championship title and his 4th in 5 years. The second half of the season saw both Ferrari drivers take 4 podiums apiece, with Red Bull's Max Verstappen taking 7 podiums in the last 9 races, a consistent period where Max never finished outside the top 5. Kimi was the fastest Finn of the season, taking 12 podiums in 17 race finishes, with Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes only taking 8 podiums, and coming under significant scrutiny for not taking a single race win in a Mercedes car that romped to the World Championship under Lewis Hamilton. With 2 stronger drivers over the season, Ferrari did have the chance to take the Constructors' title, but they still fell 84 points short owing to Lewis Hamilton's dominant second half of the season. Further down the grid, given the top 3 teams were leagues ahead of the rest, the midfield saw Renault finish 4th in the standings, with Ferrari customer team Haas just behind in 5th. With the 2018 Formula 1 season featuring 3 strong teams and 5 different race winners, the potential arises to provide an action-packed season by replaying it from Kimi's perspective on the F1 2018 Codemasters game, with the opportunity to provide Ferrari with a first world title since Kimi took the Scuderia's last, all the way back in 2007. Welcome to F1 2018. I am Toby from TIJ Gaming and welcome to a new series where we are going to take Kimi Raikkonen through the Formula 1 2018 season with the Codemasters F1 2018 game. This is almost like a new game for me. As soon as the Codemasters game started coming out in 2009, I played all of them. I played 2009, 10, all the way through to probably 17 was the one that I played last to a great extent. I did have F1 2018 and F1 2019 bought for me, I think for Christmases or birthdays, but honestly, I hardly played them. You can see on the career mode that I did a lot. I got to Season 1, Round 1, the first race and the first practice. I did have a short Grand Prix thing going, but I got rid of that. I think I did 4 or 5 races. But that was it on this game. I did play very little on F1 2018. So I fancied doing an F1 season. I have done a few races on F1 2010 recently. And I thought, oh, yeah, that game is one that gets played quite a lot on YouTube. But F1 2018 is, you can't call it a retro game. But I did a F1 2012 series 6 years ago now, with Williams, and then went to Lotus. If you haven't watched that series, make sure to check that one out. It is on the channel homepage. I've done a 2014 save as well with Ferrari, but that was 6 years ago, so you think that game was 7 years old when I did that series. It's no coincidence that F1 2018 is also 7 years old, but rather than doing a career mode, because it's all been done before, and I didn't want to do something that took seasons and seasons on this game, I thought, let's have a look at the 2018 season. Let's see what the stories are of the season and something that could be interesting. So I thought potentially about Valtteri Bottas, because Valtteri Bottas, as you'd have seen in the intro that I made, didn't have a great season. He finished 5th in the championship, just behind Kimi Raikkonen and Max Verstappen. But I thought, well, in the game, Bottas is in the fastest car. It could be the case that if I get to grips with it, it could be a little bit like the 2014 save that I did, that by the time I got to grips with it, I was wiping the floor with the field in the Mercedes. So then I thought about other stories. Could I go with Verstappen? Could I go with Sebastian Vettel? And then I thought, well, Kimi is one of my favourite drivers of all time, and this was the last season that Kimi Raikkonen drove for Ferrari. So let's go for Kimi Raikkonen, and that is exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to start this 2018 championship. Now this is a menu that I've had a quick look through, and I have to say I very much like. Again, I didn't play much of this game, and I've played a fair amount of F1 24, but none of the games before have I played a lot of, and I like the idea of a lot of these championships. I feel like these were a feature in F1 2017 as well. From memory, I think 2017 might have been the first game with classic cars, but I could be talking rubbish. I've done no research on that. But we've got the F1 2018 Championship that we'll be doing, and you can earn points, I think, for these championships. So you can see that you get a bronze medal for finishing 4th, silver for 2nd, and a gold for 1st. Then you have the Classic Championship season, which I thought was cool. A Sprint Championship, which I thought was interesting because the grids are randomised and then reverse championship order. The double-header tour, so you've got a feature race and a sprint race. That's interesting. The sprint racing series was interesting, but there was some that I thought was really interesting. So you've got the Classic Street Series, standard points until a double points finale. Do you remember that in 2014? I can't remember if it was quite just that. If it was just that season. You've got a hot lap series, so you've got standard qualifying points for 5 races, and then reduced points as a race. There was one, or what, have I gone past it already? There was one that was really interesting. Perhaps it was the sprint racing one. So you've got the sprint championship, which is okay. This one I thought was interesting. The double-header tour, feature race, and a sprint race. And as you go through all of these different championships, you can see that there are other ones that you can unlock as you go through. So that could be something that we look to do later on. But without getting ahead of ourselves, let's go and start the F1 2018 World Championship. So, to take you through the teams, we've talked about the top 3 pretty much in depth in that little introduction sequence that we had earlier. So we have Mercedes. Their drivers are Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas' 2nd season at Mercedes. Ferrari we'll cover later, so we'll come back to them. Aston Martin Red Bull Racing, Daniel Ricciardo, who was still really the #1 driver at this time. This was Max Verstappen's 3rd season at Red Bull, but Max very much came to the fore in this season. Force India, which were 2 different teams through this season. This was the season where they had the drama at the Belgian Grand Prix, and there were 2 different constructors in this season. I thought they were actually took over by Racing Point. Looking at Wikipedia, possibly not. They had Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon in their cars. Williams, this was a torrid time for Williams, really. This was Lance Stroll and Sergei Sorokin. I don't know if it was Sorokin's 1st season in Formula 1, I can't quite remember. Renault had a solid lineup, Nico Hülkenberg and Carlos Sainz. Toro Rosso, that's a name that I haven't heard for a long time. Brendan Hartley in the Toro Rosso alongside Pierre Gasly. The Haas team had a pretty good season this season. This was a lineup that Haas had for a fair amount of time. Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen in that car. The McLaren team had Fernando Alonso in the car and Stoffel Van Dorn. Not a great season for them either. And then the final team, Alfa Romeo Sauber. We've touched on Charles Leclerc making his debut for the team. And Marcus Ericsson, who was in the Sauber team. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams, just 20 drivers. Interestingly enough, the gold and all the medals change. You can see positions as you change through the team. So that's quite cool. You can see the game, no surprise really, gives Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin very much the top 3 credence. Force India did enter as 2 different constructors. I think they would have finished at least 5th in the World Championship had that constructor carried on. Again, I'm just getting this information from Wikipedia. 2018 was a long time ago. But of course, Scuderia Ferrari had the 4-time world champion at this point, and still to this day, Sebastian Vettel, and Kimi Raikkonen in his final season at Ferrari. So let's start the championship. So I think I've already set this up already. I have. So we're just going to go for a single practice session just in case I need to get my eye in at a circuit. I've decided to go from a short qualifying, which only differs from a full qualifying in the terms of the amount of sessions. Just going to be 1 session rather than 3. I could be talking up my ability somewhat, but ultimately that Ferrari should get through to Q3 in all the weekends. So it's just going to mean we're going to have to do at least 2 more laps in this series every race. So it seems a bit of a waste to do full qualifying. We're going to have a formation lap. We're going to stick for 25% races just for this point. We might get to 50% later. And then the AI driver level is going to be at the top of the legend tier. So 101 tips into the ultimate tier, which is the highest tier. I think I'm probably going to sit at legend, I would say. But it could be an interesting one. It might take us some time to get used to this game. I've done about 10 laps as a time trial at Australia. I have to say I'm really surprised by these cars given the braking distances are so small. Maybe coming from F1 2010, it does exaggerate that a little bit. But the braking distances are quite small, but they are quite understeery, I have to say, and fairly unpredictable going into the corners. So it's going to be interesting to see how we get on. Our assist, we're going to go for manual gears, but pretty much everything else on at the moment. And I'm going to set ERS to automatic as well, because I haven't got much experience with ERS. So we're going to advance and get straight into this. The first race is going to be Australia, of course. I think it's 21 rounds in this Formula 1 season. And hopefully, I think what we can do today is try and finish in the top 4 at least. I think that's what we've got to try and do. Ultimately, we are classed as the second best team this season. Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo are going to be a challenge, but I would be surprised if we fell outside the top 6. If we did, that would be pretty alarming. But ultimately, what we're going to try and do is try and really match the Mercedes, challenge the Mercedes in all these races this year. The one aim which would be really nice would be to get the Constructors' Championship for Ferrari. I think it could be difficult to win the World Championship. We'll have to see what the Delta's like to Mercedes, whether that Mercedes is just purely a dominant car, and how close we can get to that Mercedes. But nevertheless, let's see how we get on. So this is the lovely presentation style in this game. So this is the practice for the first Grand Prix of the year at what looks like a very overcast Silverstone, Melbourne. Let's have a look what the forecast is for the rest of the weekend. So it's dry, crucially. Qualifying's going to be wet, but the race is going to be dry. So no pressure for us. We're going to jump straight into the first qualifying session of the new season. It's almost like we've got real-time weather. As I record this outside, it is tipping it down with rain. And the Australian Grand Prix circuit looks a little bit like that too. I remember, I think it was 2011 that I woke up for the qualifying session early in the morning. It was sort of 4 or 5 a.m, something like that. And then they cancelled qualifying. It had to be rerouted to later on in the day. So I'm sure qualifying was about midnight on that Saturday evening. I got back up at about 11:30 and watched that qualifying session. I remember that very well. I think they had something similar. It was only a few years ago in Japan. Was it even last year? The years just all seem to blend into one recently. But that track looks absolutely abysmal. So in terms of setup for this weekend, it's a heavy rain track. It looks like it's going to be heavy rain throughout the session. We're on intermediates at the moment. That's the recommended tyre, I would guess. And then it's going to be dry for tomorrow. So how do we set up? Well, we're going to try and make sure that we're okay in qualifying. In fact, I think I've answered my own question, because in that time trial session, again, the car was quite understeered. If we go for increased top speed, it's just going to make the car even worse in a qualifying state, I would have thought. And if we go for increased downforce, I don't think we're going to have the straight line speed. So we'll stick with a balanced setup for this one. We are going to, however, put some more fuel in the car. I think that the best strategy in the wet is just to try and stay out there. I'm going to just drive out, make sure that we get a lap behind us. It's pointless to just go straight to a flying lap when the conditions are like this. Ultimately, you're going to lose a lap just by testing the car out. Again, I haven't driven in wet conditions on this game. It looks absolutely hideous out. The weather conditions look awful. We're going to put our fuel mix on lean. Is there anybody else going out there? Our teammate, I think, is coming out just behind us, so it's going to be an adventure out here, and I can feel it's a little bit squirrely already. We're going to take it nice and easy into the first corner. But this is going to be difficult to get any lap time out of. I mean, the understeer on this car, whether it was just the Ferrari or all the cars on this game altogether, but the understeer, I feel like, could be even worse here, potentially. I'm just struggling to get the car into the corner. But the grip is okay on the intermediate tyre, so I think this is going to be the tyre to choose. We've got enough fuel. If we stick on lean, that's probably going to use, what, 3/4 of a lap? I think we've probably got 3 laps worth of fuel in the car, I would surmise. So we don't want to push these intermediates too much on the opening lap, albeit we want to get them to temperature. It seems we're already at a decent temperature, so that's positive. I also don't know on the championship mode. I do remember, certainly on 2017, that you would get wear on the different components. Whether that is the same on a championship mode, I certainly hope that it is. You're not going to get all the elements of a career mode on the championship mode, but hopefully we get most of them. I think we will probably be best letting our teammate through here as to not hold him up before the first flying lap, but needs to get a move on, does old Seb. So he is through. We're going to put the car in rich fuel mix before... We'll do a lap in rich, actually, not go to maximum, just a lap in rich mix, just to see what sort of time we set, what benchmark we set, and Seb being in front of us as well, give us a good benchmark for what we're going to set, and then we'll really go for it on the second lap. Oh, God. Just didn't want to get out of turn 3 there, did the car. 8 tenths faster than Grosjean in that first sector. I don't know what sort of pedestal Grosjean is. Max Verstappen going to the top of the session with a 36.6, I think that was. Quite a way off Verstappen's time, so we have got time to gain. We're a second off in the second sector. Crucially, we do have that maximum fuel mix, which we can upgrade to for the second lap. And of course, the car will be a little bit lighter. We are catching Esteban Ocon ever so slightly, so we've got to be careful going into that first lap that he doesn't hold us up. We'll change into maximum fuel mix now and see, we'll stay with it, see what we come over the line with our first time lap in this session. Once we get onto the straight, we're going to see what the tyre wear's like, see if we can squeeze more laps out of this car. Sebastian Vettel's gone top of the times. Tyre wear's not really going to be a problem here. We set a 1:37.9, which puts into 4th place in between the two Renault cars, but Valtteri Bottas has gone 2 seconds ahead. We're on max this time though. You can see we're already gaining a couple of temps down the straight, so this is probably going to be a lot more representative of what we can do. Let's see if we can get out that third corner better this time round. We certainly can, but we've got traffic in front. We need to negotiate that on this next lap. This is much better, much better. Oh, we nearly cut that corner there. We were lucky, I think, to keep our lap. But we're purple in the first sector. I don't know how far we are purple. I can just see at the bottom of our screen we were purple in that sector. I guess as more drivers set times on this circuit, that, oh God, just doesn't want to get out the corners at all. Once more guys set times on this circuit, it will get drier, I would have thought. Who's that in front of us? That's Stoffel Van Dorn. Is he going to get it in our way? He is. Look at the dirty air. We can't see anything. Van Dorn finally gets out of the way. But that would have lost us time. You can see the delta just falling and falling as we come down this straight. I didn't catch what our delta was at the end of the second sector, but it wasn't great. Stoffel Van Dorn hasn't helped us out there at all, but we are gaining in this sector. We've stayed about the same distance to Esteban Ocon on this lap, which gives me the impression that it's not been that good a lap. We just can't get out the penultimate corner and out of the final corner. It is going to be an improvement, I think, but not much of one, and I don't know whether we're going to have enough fuel to set another lap time. It's going to be a 1:37 dead, which moves just ahead of Esteban Ocon. I don't know how many drivers are out there, but P5 isn't a bad position to be in at the moment. We're going to get one more lap out of this if the car makes it to the end of the lap. But even if it doesn't, I guess it's good experience out on this wet track nevertheless. We're going to catch Ocon here, exactly the same corner as we caught Van Dorn before. And that's going to lose time. We were a few attempts quicker in that second sector. It's alright getting out of the way now, Ocon. You've destroyed our lap already, so we're not going to improve here. We're going to box, see what the sector times are, and see how we can improve. Whether we go out for a shorter stint, whether the amount of fuel didn't help us particularly. It could be that only 6 drivers have set times. We put it in the wall.
Damage to your wing. Damage to your wing. Suggest we box to change it.
So that's going to lose us time in the pits. Albeit, fortunately, I don't think the floor of the cars is damaged at all. So we're okay. It's just the wing that has been impacted there. Sergio Perez has gone ahead of us in the Force India. Let's see what the times look like as we enter the pit lane. So everybody par Charles Leclerc has set a lap time in this session. If we compare our lap time to our teammate, Sebastian Vettel, you can see in the first sector it was really strong, but 8 tenths down in that second sector. Third sector wasn't a disaster compared to Seb, but there's quite a big gap. I mean, we could do with taking P5. Really strong session from Kevin Magnussen so far in the Haas. When you look at Romain Grosjean, he is down in 18th place, so really struggling in the Haas. The Williams is a long way off. But those Mercedes cars, I mean, Daniel Ricciardo, that's a good lap time from him. It feels like we're going to have a bit of a mixed up grid here. Let's put a new set of intermediates on. We can probably reduce slightly the amount of fuel we've got in the car and just do probably a 2-lap stint. Is anybody out there doing good times at the moment? You've got Lewis Hamilton, so a 31.7, 25.9, so a better first sector, but a poorest second sector. Is he going to come to the end of this lap, or is he going to box for new tyres? He's going to box, so that's it. Kevin Magnussen, 26.1, so it's not going to be an improvement for Magnussen, I don't think, but a really strong qualifying from Kevin Magnussen so far. He's going to come into the pits as well. Charles Leclerc, a man who probably we're going to talk about a lot this season. He's going to be Kimi Raikkonen's replacement for the 2019 season. Who knows? We could do an F1 2019 career with Charles Leclerc. That would be certainly some fun. Fernando Alonso is coming into the pits. I think everybody's going to follow that strategy and come into the pit lane. Charles Leclerc coming around the last couple of corners. He's the last man left on the track, and it looks like he's going to enter the pit lane as well, is he? So we'll accelerate time a little bit. I think we're going to have to come out with about 5 minutes to go if we're going to get 2 laps out of this. I think we're going to choose now to come out of the pits. Can we improve on a 8th place? I don't think 8th would be a disaster to start, but we'd like to be on probably the front 3 rows at the very least. It appears a lot of the guys have opted to stay in the pit lane unless they are coming out very late just to do 1 lap. So that could indicate that track conditions have possibly got cooler. It has kept raining throughout this session, but we'll just have to see for the sector times. We're not going to lose anything by doing another couple of laps. The car doesn't want to get out that corner, and it really doesn't this time. Yellow flag, we've spun. Nico Hulkenberg's lap's going to have gone. We're going to have lost pretty much all the temperature in the tyres. We might as well set the fuel mix to reach again. Don't know if that's flat spotted the tyres at all. It has certainly given us a little bit of tyre wear. I don't know if everybody's coming out behind us now to set laps. I couldn't see how far they were behind before. Let's have a quick look at the race director. Yeah, a lot of drivers are out there racing now. So they're going to be doing 1 lap, I would suppose. But a bit of a shame that we did spin out there. You can see we've actually dropped to P10 now. So somebody must have been out there doing a flying lap. That puts a lot of risk on this final lap for us. We've got to keep the car in a straight line. Coming out of turn 3 has been one of our biggest problems so far. We just can't seem to get the car out of that corner. But that's going to be a temporary issue. I think tomorrow's going to be just fine in the dry. But qualifying is going to have a big impact on this race. We need to do a better lap on this final one. We've got 1 opportunity, and that's it. Better exit from turn 3. We stayed the right way, and we are purple in the first sector. We had a strong first sector beforehand, though. We need to capitalise on that and improve this second sector. Getting squirrely even in a straight line. Look at that delta. That delta is, well, probably come back at the wrong time. We're purple in the second sector. The track seems to be getting drier. We're 1.1 up. Lewis Hamilton stopped in the pits. Nobody's setting new fastest lap times, whether they're improving on their previous times. But I think everybody but Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton has gone for it in this session. This could be a very good lap if we just keep it going until the end. Don't spin out the last corner. We nearly went. We keep the car on the right track. But this feels like this is going to be a really strong lap. I don't think it's going to put us in pole position, but it's going to be a massive improvement. It's a 35.5, I think that was in the end. Where does that put us on the grid? That puts us in 5th. I must confess, I did think that was going to put us a little bit higher up. We were purple in the first 2 sectors. But look at that. Wow. Talk about a mixed grid. We did beat Lewis Hamilton, but Daniel Ricciardo on pole, Kevin Magnussen on the front row. Kevin Magnussen set a very strong first lap. He was up in the top 6 at least. And then the Force India pair, Perez and Ocon, 3rd and 4th. Effectively, if we've beaten all the opponents we want to beat, where's Valtteri Bottas? He's in P9. So Hamilton P7, Bottas P9. Bottas particularly is going to have some traffic to come through, both McLarens. Our teammate Sebastian Vettel P11. Where is Max Verstappen? All the way down in P15. A disaster for Max. Let's see what happened to us in the last sector. So we did a 38.5 in that last sector. 38 dead for Daniel Ricciardo. So we lost 5 tenths there. 38.4 for Kevin Magnussen. So, again, Daniel Ricciardo's time was just fantastic. Pretty comparable with the rest, though. That was a good session for us finishing P5. If we're just focusing on the Ferrari versus Mercedes battle, we've beaten who we wanted to beat. if we can try and get past the Force Indias and the Haas of Kevin Magnussen quite quickly, it could be a shootout between us and Daniel Ricciardo for the first race win of the season here at Australia. Here we go.
Welcome then to the 2018 Formula One World Championship and the first of a 21-race calendar. It's been a game of power unit musical chairs for this season, with McLaren now using Renault engines and Toro Rosso becoming a Works Honda team. And will we see, I wonder, Lewis Hamilton or Sebastian Vettel match the 5 drivers' titles of Juan Manuel Fangio?
You should have some space going into the first corner, so try to keep it tidy.
Space into the first corner, allegedly. Perez and Ocon, particularly between one another, don't have the best record. You can see Kevin Magnussen there on the front row and Daniel Ricciardo at the front. David Croft making a lot already of that championship battle between Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton. A session that neither of them really wanted to start off the Grand Prix season. So it would suggest that a one-stop, I would say, obviously here is a lot quicker. Fuel load, I don't know a lot about it yet, so I'm going to take it nice and easy, I think, here. Obviously, we can't change anything in Parc Fermé, so there's not a lot for us really to worry about here in terms of strategy, I wouldn't have thought. So we're going to go for the formation lap. We have no representative pace in the dry, so it's going to be interesting to see how we keep up with our contemporaries today. It feels like the difficulty was okay for the wet. We were pretty close to our rivals, but the fact that we were behind the Force Indias and Haas as well does make me worry a bit, even though it could just be something that it was a mixed grid. I know that Lewis didn't choose to go out. Everybody else went out. It was a mistake, definitely, for Hamilton not to go out. He's got a fair amount of traffic to get through. It all depends on his start, really, but the start is going to be pretty crucial here for both Lewis and Sebastian. I think Daniel Ricciardo is going to be the man who's rubbing his hands together, particularly if Kevin Magnussen and the gang in front of us can hold us up. It feels like Daniel Ricciardo could well quite dominantly win this Australian Grand Prix. But of course you've got to get through the first lap quickly. Fernando Alonso is going to use this as an opportunity. The McLaren, not the best car this season, so you would say that Alonso and Van Dorn have both qualified pretty well. We'll try and use this opportunity to get some points on the board early on. That Force India looks a pretty decent car, so does the Haas as well. Max Verstappen's coming from a long way down the grid, but there are lots of stories to tell in this race. We'll be telling the one of Kimi Raikkonen. What are we aiming for today? Well, I think a podium would be good. Again, I don't know what to expect, as I've said before. Whether our pace is going to be up there or not, I think everybody's going to be starting on that ultra soft tyre by the looks of it. So no variations in strategy. You wouldn't think there'd be much of a variation anyway, really, with a 25% race, albeit you might get some start on a bit of a slower tyre. But the grid's going to make things interesting here for this Australian Grand Prix. So I'm not going to talk any longer. I'm going to cut to the start of the race.
Keep an eye on the lights. The start sequence will begin as soon as the grid has formed. Be ready with the clutch.
Roger that. Here we go. First race of the season. 5 lights. They held that for a long time, but we're away for the Australian Grand Prix. It's a decent start. Fernando Alonso is in our inside. Daniel Ricciardo's on an absolute shocker. The 2 Force Indias trying to go up his inside going into the first corner. We just try and keep it clean. Ocon and Alonso collide. But fortunately for both of those guys, it isn't a bad one for them. But Daniel Ricciardo loses the lead by the looks of it. It's Kevin Magnussen who leads the Australian Grand Prix in the Haas. That is a big surprise, but maybe we took things a little bit too cautiously there. Just wanted to keep it clean through this first lap. Stoffel Van Dorn has jumped past Lewis Hamilton, so it is a real shock in terms of the front runners. Not a good start at all. We just got to keep it clean in this race. Fernando Alonso is pulling away from us a little bit. I feel like the fuel mix, as I probably expected, but didn't want to risk with too much. The fuel, we're probably over-fueled for this race, but better to be safe than sorry. We can at least stay in that rich mix throughout this Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso looks like he's struggling a little bit behind the Force India. I think it's Ocon who's still in P4. He's losing a little bit of time. We've come through that chicane nicely. Can we make a move on Fernando Alonso here? Alonso drifts slightly to the inside as to not give us any room. Sebastian Vettel has had an excellent start. He's just gone up the inside of Stoffel Van Dorn. So it appears that Lewis Hamilton has had some problems in his getaway, we've tried to drop down to second there and click the gears once too much. But this is a decent start for us. It's certainly not a disastrous start. We're gaining time on Fernando down the straight. We're going to have to be brave and make a move. I don't know how the AI are going to react, but that's all part of the learning process here. It feels like we've got a good run down the straight. We know we don't get a good run out of turn 3, but Fernando Alonso not going to fight that one too much, I don't think. We've gone up the inside of the McLaren, and that has put us up to P5. Somebody's out of this race. There's only 19 runners left. It could be Lewis Hamilton, given that we can't see Lewis behind us. There is a blue dot, but that could be Valtteri Bottas, remember. It's Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen is out of the race. We said that he qualified low down, and that's always a risk to be in the midfield. We know that Max Verstappen pulls no punches, so has he got involved in an incident with another driver? We'll have a look at the race director at the end of the race, see if we can get anything from this. Amazingly, Daniel Ricciardo has lost the position to Sergio Perez. We could see the two Force Indias and Danny Rick fighting into that first corner going 3 abreast, and it is Daniel Ricciardo who has missed out drastically. Sebastian Vettel has got a rocket ship in that Ferrari behind us. He's got past Fernando Alonso. But it's going to be the Force Indies, I think, who are going to be the top of the constructors the way we're going so far. We're keeping a decent gap to Esteban Ocon, closing on him slightly. I mean, that's a poor corner cut. We want to make sure we don't do too much of that and end up with a penalty, because this already appears to be a good opportunity for us at the start of the season. So let's get a measure. So we've done a 25.7. K-Mag, albeit in clean air, we had to make an overtake in a 25.2. So our pace looks decent compared to the leaders, which on this occasion is the Haas of Kevin Magnussen. The yellow flag, albeit very briefly, but I don't know who that's for. It's certainly not for anybody in front of us. But I think we're going to need a lap behind Esteban Ocon, just maybe for me to stop commentating and focus a little bit before wants to make a move on the start lap 4. You can see already Ocon losing some ground to the leaders. And we need to get past that Force India if we're going to be involved in that lead battle come the end of the Grand Prix. But Kevin Magnussen, what a job he's doing leading the Australian Grand Prix so far. Oh! Perez is off! Perez is off! Oh, we've hit our front wing on Esteban Ocon. Oh. I was going to cut to the action a little bit earlier, as it seemed that there was a fight. Lewis Hamilton's up to P6. I think we're gonna let Vettel through here. He's gonna have a better chance than us. But I think Ricciardo and Perez were going for it through that corner. We've got no DRS. Is Perez out the race? There's another driver out the race. That could be Checo Perez. But Ricciardo and Perez were going for it through that right-hander before the start-finish straight. And there was an accident there. We couldn't get out of the way in time. Ocon, yeah, Perez has pulled out of this Grand Prix. We couldn't get out of the way in time. And all of a sudden, we've got some front wing damage. We're definitely going to have to replace that at the pit stop. But that is going to lose us a lot of time. Sebastian Vettel trying desperately to get past Esteban Ocon, because this still is a big opportunity. The Haas is leading. Daniel Ricciardo isn't that close to him. Do we have to play the rear gunner and try and defend from Lewis Hamilton now? But we don't want to get into an accident with Lewis. Lewis up the inside. He has to bail out. There's no room there. We've made contact. And Lewis Hamilton's in the wall. Well, we were ahead, weren't we, of Hamilton, so should we have given him more space? Possibly. But the stewards haven't deemed that we are at fault there, so yeah. That wasn't our best example of driving, but we've got to keep our focus here. It feels like the last lap we have lost some focus, and no doubt we are going to lose some time. We've set the wing damage to be repaired, because it's clear we're losing time here in this Grand Prix. Looking at that rich fuel mix, I'm not sure we can run in rich for the whole race. It seems to double DRS zone here. When are we meant to pit? We're meant to pit. Pit window is lap 6 to 12. Don't know if it's worth us pitting a lap early here. We're going to rejoin in 16th if we come out. It looks like there's a fair gap. Just wondering about traffic to go into. I mean, the car is still drivable. There's no question about that. But I feel like the trouble is we're going to have a lot of tyre wear later on if we're not careful. Decisions. Can we stick it out another lap? I guess the gaps behind will grow as well, so that might be worth it. Kevin Magnussen, the leader, what's going on with Kev? Kev's got a problem with his car. Tell you what, it's all happening here. Looks like he's still leading the Grand Prix though, but as you can see on the minimap, Daniel Ricciardo is right behind him. Whether that's due to a lack of pace from K-Mag or whether Daniel Ricciardo has caught up, I'm not sure. But given that team radio message, you do wonder whether it is Magnussen having a problem with his car, because he had got quite the gap to Daniel Ricciardo. We're going to go another lap. We're going to have to box on this next lap though. It's through that last corner that we're really going to struggle, that right-hander, to get downforce. But the rest of the circuit looks okay. Yeah, box this lap, I agree with that. We're not going to be able to hold this for much longer. We've lost a second and a half to Valtteri Bottas on that last lap. I think we were half a second behind when we got overtook. But the rest of the guys in front are still being held up. Kevin Magnussen, I think he's still ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. So we've shafted Lewis Hamilton to a degree here, which I can only apologise for. But ultimately the stewards make the decisions. We've not even had a warning for that, so it is being deemed probably that it was Lewis Hamilton's fault, that incident, although in Lewis's defence, I'll probably beg to differ there. We definitely did contribute to that accident, there's no question about that. What I don't think I picked up on was the fact that Sebastian Vettel did get past Esteban Ocon, and you can see from the minimap, well, it's clear that I think Seb's going to win this race. So I'm glad that we let Seb through when we did. 2.7 seconds now is the gap to Valtteri Bottas. So we have lost some time, but I think it was wise for us to stay out, particularly from a tyre wear perspective. Obviously, teams are going to have to double stack. That's not going to be a problem for us. And to be fair, for none of the top teams, because none of them are very close together. But we've got a situation here where we are in the best place to make a difference in this Grand Prix, because the two Ferraris of the three teams are the only two that are left there. We've got to make sure we hit our marks here. Probably a little bit cautious coming in there, but I didn't want to make any sort of silly mistake. So Danny Rick's out. We're going to have to change this wing, obviously, which is going to really harm us. You can see that there's guys coming in behind us. So, to be fair, changing that wing isn't going to be a disaster for us, I wouldn't have thought, because we would have been held for that time anyway. So, it works out okay. You can see we've come out behind, that's Brendan Hartley, apparently. So, we're going to have to make a pretty quick move on Brendan here. But we have come out of the pits. No surprise, really, given that it's took us another probably 6 or 7 seconds to repair that damaged front wing. Time that I think is well spent, because we were losing a second and a half behind Valtteri Bottas. So it makes complete sense to have changed that front wing. But we are back onto a grippy surface now with the tyres and the front wing replaced. Lewis Hamilton obviously pit and has set the fastest lap. So it'll be interesting to see how Lewis recovers through this race. But this has not gone to the script at all, has it? I don't know where Kevin Magnussen is, whether he's still at the front of the race. Danny Rick pitted on that lap, so you would suggest the rest of the front runners will come in, but this is going to be a bit of a recovery race for us now to make the most of what we can out of this Grand Prix. You can see the fuel mix, even on standard, is dropping, so that would suggest maybe we're running the revs a little bit too high. I don't quite know. Okay, here come the late pitters. What did we say about Charles Leclerc? There'll be some focus on Charlie this year, but we're fighting with the man who's going to take our seat already. Give him enough room around the outside, because it feels like he's going to stay there. Stoffel Van Dorn comes out just ahead, so that's probably an indicator of what time we've lost. Charles Leclerc hanging it round the inside. We give him enough room there. I think that's fair racing. Let's just make sure that we don't collide with these two. We need to get past them as soon as possible, really. Up the inside of Stoffel Van Dorn, there's enough room to make that move go. Brendan Hartley's been a good race for Brendan Hartley, hasn't it, to be in P6. Can we get past Brendan Hartley? It's not a DRS on this straight, is it? I think it's just a double DRS. It's too early in terms of where we are in time, 2018, for it to be a... Oh no, we have that one down the next straight. So can we get past Brendan Hartley? We should have a good run through here. Put the onto rich fuel mix. We've got DRS. Surely this is going to be a sitting duck move. And it is. So... we're back up to P6. Brendan Hartley fights it, but can't fight it very much. And it looks like, after all the drama, we're in an okay position here. I think if we finish 6th in this Grand Prix, given the drama that's happened, given that we've lost that time for the front wing, I don't think that would be a bad finish. Not sure what else we can do here. Esteban Ocon is 3.3 seconds ahead. For reference, at the line at the start of the sector, he was 3.4 ahead, so we're not really making any gains on Esteban Ocon here. It feels like this is very much our pace. We've not ran away from Brendan Hartley either, which suggests that we're not all that well placed. The gap 3.6, so Esteban Ocon is gain time in that second sector. So I think 6th, unless something happens ahead of us, is going to be the limit of where we can finish today. Kevin Magnussen has dropped back significantly. I think that Daniel Ricciardo's back in the lead of this race. Seb second, Bottas third. So the order at the front is more like what you would expect. We're quite a way off it here. Fastest laps have just been set by the front runners of a 1:24.9, I think was the fastest lap. We've just set a 1:26.1, so we're quite a way off the pace. I think our only hope of increasing this position, we have gained somewhat on Ocon in that sector, so that's positive. We're pulling away from Brendan Hartley. You can see Kevin Magnussen up ahead, and if there is truth that there's a problem with his car, if K-Mag can hold Ocon up, we could make a few positions up, but I think that could be somewhat wishful thinking. But let's see nevertheless. Well, I said it might have been wishful thinking. We have been helped by the fact that we've put a better lap time together, a 1:25.5, which is our personal best. But we've gained a second and a half on, albeit it's now Magnussen in front of us on that lap. So Magnussen has definitely got a problem. Magnussen didn't do us much favours, given that, you know, he is the customer team after all. Esteban Ocon has gone ahead of K-Mag. I think we should be able to dispatch of Magnussen. Have we got the pace then to catch up to Ocon, particularly if we get some DRS support? But it feels like we're probably going to catch Magnussen before that DRS support comes in. We are very much towing the line in terms of track limits here. We've got to be careful. Is K-Mag going to defend this one? He does defend, but he gives enough space down the inside. We brush wheels, but we are past Kevin Magnussen. I do feel for K-Mag in this race, because if it is the car problems that have set him back, that is a massive opportunity missed for Haas here.
Gap to the car in front is 1.9 seconds. Okay, gap to
4 laps to go then. The gap is 1.5 seconds to Esteban Ocon. If we get that half a second and get in DRS, it feels like that rope will pull us in a lot easier than it would have done. 8 tenths behind, but we didn't get into the DRS before that zone. We are managing a bit of a fuel situation here. You can see that we're only 0.13 of a lap ahead. Just before we came up to the line, our engineer said that we'd got 3 laps of fuel remaining, so it's going to be very tight come the end of the Grand Prix. But if we can get past Esteban Ocon, I think we're pretty safe to put it in lean fuel mix. The guys ahead are way too far ahead for us to even think about overtaking. So, nevertheless, we are doing a bit of short shifting, but we can't give up this chance to get past Esteban Ocon. Could have gone for it into there. We don't want to risk damage this late on, though. I do feel for Magnussen, there's definitely a problem with that car. You can see that he is way behind. We know we're quicker out of this chicane, but again, I don't want to make the move. I don't want to do anything too silly. Again, this is just for 2 points. Put it up to reach fuel mix. Get in the slipstream of that Force India. This is a big finish for Ocon, so you expect him to fight it. He's locked up. But we've not got him. Got the momentum though going into the last corner. Again, I just want to be cautious here. I don't want to do anything silly. We've just ran into the back of Esteban Ocon. You would think on the start-finish straight we should get it done. But you can see that fuel coming down. We need to make a move quickly. We've got to go down to standard fuel mix. I think we're going to have to chuck it up the inside. Ocon defends that inside line though. But we're turning much better. Ocon caught unawares. And we've got to go down to lean fuel mix now. Just to get this car home. We had quite a delta on Ocon, so we should be able to pull that 1 second DRS, I would have thought. But P4, we started, was it P6 we started or P5? I would take P4 given the events today. A bit disappointed, we're 12 seconds behind Valtteri Bottas. I think without that front wing damage, we could have been close to Bottas. Could we have finished ahead of him? Perhaps, I don't know, but it looks like Seb is going to win this race. In fact, let's check in and see what's going on at the front. So we're in P4, Bottas is ahead. Got to keep an eye on Esteban Ocon here, because he is gaining on us. Tried to go up the inside, we've caused another incident. That wasn't great. We didn't really give him the room that he deserved, to be quite frank. I didn't see who's in the lead. No, that was poor driving from us, really. We didn't give Ocon the room he deserved. We got a warning for that. Again, the stewards didn't. That's not our fault. I I don't really want to start ruining people's races. I feel guilty enough for ruining Lewis's race. And Esteban Ocon there was on for a good points finish for Force India, so Force India must be desperately gutted because they were on for, well, maybe not a double podium, but certainly 4th, 5th or 6th with 2 of their drivers, and it looks like they're going to walk away from the Grand Prix with nothing, and of course that's absolutely nothing to do with us. Well, it feels like we've packed more drama into this 25% race than some of the races in the real-life 2025 Formula 1 season. Not all of our own volition as well. I mean, we had the Force India accident, Ricciardo and Perez coming together. Daniel Ricciardo has won the race at his home race for Red Bull. That is a brilliant start for Danny Rick, the Honey Badger. I said he was the favourite going into it, but he'd still got to execute the race. You just wonder how it might have changed, given if that incident with Perez could have ended up wrong for him. Perez ultimately retired because of it, but Daniel Ricciardo stayed on the track, picks up a win. Sebastian Vettel second, Valtteri Bottas in third. We're not the fastest Finn of today, but I think we'll take that finish in P4. Valtteri kept it clean in fairness to him and beat us. But 3 different constructors on the podium. Perhaps 2 out of the 3 drivers, not the drivers that you would think to be there. You can see that, oh, who's that? Christian Horner, do you remember him? That team wins the Grand Prix today. It will be Red Bull, I'd expect, at the top of the constructors, but I do wonder if 2 drivers from any team got into the points. I would surmise possibly that Hamilton got back into the points, especially given that Magnussen was dropping back quite considerably at the end, causing a bit of a train. Good race for Brendan Hartley. He was running quite high up. I think he was one that definitely benefited from a lot of the front runners having incidents with one another today. There's Adrian Newey on the podium as well. So Daniel Ricciardo wins his home race. Let's hope on this occasion he doesn't get disqualified like he did in 2014. But there you go. There's the Red Bull. Good race from Danny Rick. Sebastian as well, a very good recovery. I think, was he P9 on the grid or P11, Sebastian? So a really solid recovery there. Came through the field very well at the start. And Valtteri Bottas having a nice quiet race and managing to finish in P3. So here's the standings then. So Magnussen 5th, Hulkenberg a strong race in 6th. Hartley 7th. Grosjean doing well to get up to 16th from 8th on the grid. Charles Leclerc scoring a point in his first Formula 1 Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton didn't get back into the points. Lewis was quite a way behind. Perez and Verstappen both retiring out of the Grand Prix. In terms of the standings, I'm hoping I can go back after this. Yes, I can. So we know the drivers' standings will match the race. It's going to be us in front, of course. We got a 2nd and a 4th place, so a solid start for us. Red Bull just behind, Mercedes 15. A good showing from Haas today, a really good showing with 14 points on the board already. You have to feel that could have been more if Magnussen hadn't got the problem with his car. He'd have certainly finished ahead of us, I think, because he was dropping back like a stone, and he was quite a way ahead of Esteban Ocon as well. 8 points for Renault, a couple of points for Toro Rosso, that's all down to Brendan Hartley. 2 points for McLaren, Stoffel Van Dorn finishing in 9th place, and the solitary point for Sauber. And oh, what could have been for Force India today. You've got to feel sorry for Force India. Let's see if the race direct gives any indication of what happened. So Verstappen actually had a mechanical failure. A few ding-dongs on the first lap. Terminal damage for Sergio Perez. And Sorokin had a collision with Perez, so I wonder what went on there. I just want to take a very quick look, if we can, at that incident between Danny Rick and Checo to see what happened there. So I'm going to fast forward to that. Let's see what happened in that incident. So here's the Perez and Ricciardo battle. You have got to credit this man, Kevin Magnussen. Look at the gap he's pulled at the start of the Grand Prix to Checo. So let's see how this unfolds then. So we have Checo, Perez on the inside, Danny going for it on the outside. They go 2 abreast through that corner. It's all going to go wrong at the next one though. What went wrong there? Because it just 2 cars didn't go into one? I mean, there's enough room. You could say probably Checo could have gone a little bit further to the right. Danny, to be fair, Danny had got a lot more racing room to give the Force India. Did he think that he was ahead? Well, he was. He got his front tyres ahead, but the 2 collide. Perez spins, no problem for Daniel Ricciardo. He had no issue out of that incident. We were pretty close to it. Let's see what it looked like on board with Esteban Ocon then. Because he was getting involved in this battle. don't know if Ocon had damage as a result. Ocon slowing down perfectly for that. But ultimately that backed us up into Esteban Ocon. You can see we were quite a way behind Ocon going into there. Ocon just slows into the middle of the track. Not enough time for us to focus. You can see some of our front wing comes off there. That is a disappointment for us, no doubt about that. But Kevin Magnussen, just look at the gap he's got there. I know that there was an incident for Daniel Ricciardo behind, but he's streets ahead coming down the start-finish straight. So if he didn't have that issue with the car, he would have been much better placed to have a good race day. He even did a faster lap than us. If you look at the drivers behind, 25s, 26s, Lewis obviously an outlier in all that. But Kevin Magnussen really had the pace today, so an excellent race from K-Mag. And I wonder what he can do going into Bahrain, which is going to be the next race for us in this 2018 championship. I have immensely enjoyed doing that. I hope you guys have too. I'll be back soon for the second race, the Bahrain Grand Prix. I wonder if they're going to be all as exciting as that. But the AI seem, fit to battle with us. The great thing about these newer games is a real drawback of the older games in that 2010, 2011, 2012, the AI are pretty poor. You can run rings around them, but not the case here. And the damage model is very sensitive in this game, as you can see from that incident with Esteban Ocon, where we collided with him. But nevertheless, thank you very much for your company today. We're going to try and get out of the Bahrain Grand Prix if we can. We'll do a mid-session save because I'm not exactly sure if it's just going to lose all of our data if we quit, which would be a disaster. But nevertheless, I've thoroughly enjoyed creating this video. I hope you guys have too. If you're looking forward to the season, make sure to leave a like down below. That really helps this video get noticed in the algorithm. And comment your thoughts as well. And if you're not already, I'd have thought you would be definitely to get to this point. If you're not already, make sure to subscribe. I'm just going to... there we go. Thank God. I wondered when the championships come up with nothing. I thought, oh, God, I think it's gone. But we're okay. Panic over. Thank you for your company today, and I'll see you all in the next one.